Cory Geiger along with Neil Rudel. We're one day away from the Outback Bowl. Lots of fun. We just heard from Joe Paterno and Urban Meyer this morning. Joe walks in. The first thing he says, I have no plans to retire. Rumor dead.
Yeah, he wanted to get that out of the way, and then it didn't come up again. So thankfully, I think that's behind us for now. I thought Joe was really sharp today. We've been watching him all year. There have been some issues with his hearing or his interpretation of different questions, particularly after games. He was really on today, and one dynamic was there was no microphone for the media. That's become the national trend. Even a Tuesday press conference with Penn State in much smaller rooms, you're asked to use a microphone. And today, he heard everything in a large ballroom without a microphone.
Okay, so not trying to be insensitive here. It is what it is. I've written about it. It's something. I wrote that he needed a hearing aid. I can't confirm. We don't know for sure if he got one. I was told by a source that I trust that said he had planned to get one. It looked to me like his hearing was so much better today than it would stand to reason that he may have had something done.
Yeah, and unfortunately, when you're 84, your health and your get up and go is monitored. You know, you want to live your life at 84. You're a national public figure, so everybody really pays attention to that on a week-to-week basis. But clearly, these couple weeks down here and this 6-month period from the summer, Joe's health, thankfully, seems to be improving.
Yeah, he looked great. Then we got to hear from Urban Meyer, and he was asked about, his final game, this and that. What I find interesting, and we'll kind of break the game down here, my number one key to the game that you can see in the Altoona Mirror and online, I have no idea which Florida team will show up. I've spoken to a lot of Florida media members down here. One of two things is going to happen, in my opinion. They're either going to come out fired up or they're going to quit. And a lot of people who follow the Florida program, Neil, seem to think the Gators are going to quit.
Well, I mean, this is the flaw in the bowl system. I mean, and Urban Meyer talked about it. He said that when he was coaching at Bowling Green, that they were 9-3 and they deserved a bowl bid, but they were left out. And then you have other teams that are conference affiliations and TV things that are tied in, and really that's this game.
Yeah.
You have two 7-5 teams with national followings playing on January 1st right here in the great Outback Bowl, and it really is a great venue. So, and the other thing is taking 4 or 5 weeks off. I mean, imagine that. Imagine the Final Four taking place in, May 15th. It just is so unfair. A lot of these kids are gearing up for the pros.
Their minds are elsewhere. Your coaches are leaving.
Right.
The one thing I would say, and no matter what your feelings are about the way the season is unfolded for Penn State, these Penn State kids are not going to quit. I expect a very good effort. They're going to give as good of an effort as they can possibly give. They kind of did in the Illinois game, but that was different because of the injury. So just from that standpoint, I don't think there's a question how Penn State's going to show up. How do you think Florida shows up?
I think Penn State generally has played with character. I think they've been a character program, and usually you see that in bowl games. They've had good records in bowl games. I don't know. The thing that Penn State is very underclassmen-oriented. A lot of these guys, particularly the quarterback position, have a lot to prove. And the defense had a bad year. Most of them are back. Opportunity to carry some momentum. Penn State has more opportunity to carry momentum into next year than Florida does because Florida's in disarray.
And we're talking about a bunch of intangibles here, and clearly games don't always come down to intangibles. They come down to execution on offense, defense, and special teams. So we'll see. I don't know that anybody has a good feeling. A lot of the Penn State media is picking Penn State. A lot of Florida media is picking Penn State. So it is interesting. A lot of people seem to think Penn State will be able to come out and play the more complete game.
Yeah. Well, Urban Meyer talked about being ready for Penn State's physical challenge, and Joe went out of his way to hit on they have to tackle well. And they have to contain Florida's speed by not missing tackles and allowing 7-yard curls to turn into big gains.
Now, both of us picked Florida, and I can honestly sit here and tell you I don't know what Florida team is going to show up. If they come out here tomorrow and they don't play well, then Penn State's going to win the game. But in this business, we're kind of locked into picks that we make 2 and 3 weeks earlier. Florida's without 4 injured starters, including standout quarterback Janoris Jenkins. So I can see a situation where Matt McGloin comes out and really lights them up.
Yeah, they talked about some of Florida's replacements on film, and Penn State has always said that when you go to the film, Joe has said, okay, where are we going to make a living? Who are the people that they're going to try to single out and pick on? And I'm sure they'll do that with the replacement corner.
The one thing they have to do that they've not been able to do all season is stop the run. They've allowed 7 100-yard rushers, and then Iowa's Adam Robinson had 95 yards. So in 8 of their 12 games, did you ever think you would see this? A Penn State defense which has prided itself on stopping the run. 8 different running backs had at least 95 yards.
Right, and it sounded like Monty's not ready to start,
right.
Based on what Joe said this morning. So, no, I didn't. Obviously they've gone through a real good run of linebackers these 3-4 years, dating back to Puzzlesny, Sean Lee, Bowman, and losing Audrick. They've been particularly vulnerable up the middle. That has to stop tomorrow.
And I'm especially looking forward to seeing Florida's 3-quarterback system. Everything leads us to believe that they are going to play all 3. Brantley may get about half the snaps, and then the other 2, Burton and Reed, may split about half the snaps, which is they say if you have 2 quarterbacks, you don't have 1. Well, if you have 3, you have less than 1.
You have 2. But Brantley may transfer too.
Right.
So there's really a lot going on at Florida, even more than at Penn State.
All right, so we've got to make predictions. I'll go ahead and go first. I have it Florida 30-16. I think Florida will come out and play well, but I'll just flat out admit I have no idea. I don't know what these
capture that. Let's capture
Seriously,
that. Frame it.
This is as much of a wild card game as I can remember in a number of years, and it's not necessarily because of the talent. Just straight talent, I think Florida wins this game. But I do think that there is a pretty significant chance that Florida's players come out here, they don't give a darn about this game, and they don't show up.
Well, I still think we're talking about 2. In name, the programs are equal. But I think Florida's been a higher level program these last 7-8 years, competing on the national level. So even if they're not on their A game, they're still maybe better program than Penn State. Penn State hasn't done enough, in my opinion, to warrant me picking them. I picked them against Michigan State. That was a mistake. So I'm picking Florida 27-17. I just didn't see enough from the Penn State defense, talent-wise, to really think that they're going to all of a sudden hold Florida to 17 points.
One more thing.
I said 27-17, Florida.
One more thing in closing. You got Joe, plans to be back next year at 84 years old. Then you have Urban Meyer at 46 years old, resigning/retiring. You and I both believe he'll be coaching again somewhere within 2, 3, 4 years or whatever. But it is fascinating that this man, Joe Paterno, keeps going, never really has any issues. And then here you have a coach who you would think would be on top of the world, 2 national titles in the last 5-6 years, and at 46 years old, for whatever reason, the pressure, the health, the desire to be with his family, they got to him.
Yeah, but you think about it. I mean, Joe waited 16 years before he became a head coach. He stayed in one place for 60-plus years. Meyer's already made a half a dozen moves in his coaching career, and he's only 46. So some coaches are built for, they're just real effective for the first 5-6 years, and then they sort of need a new change or a challenge. I think he'll be coaching. He may be coaching the pros.
And if 2 years down the road, whenever it is, Joe does decide to retire, is there any chance Penn State would go after Urban Meyer?
Well, I think Urban Meyer has the world in his palm. He's retiring really at the top of his game. You know, they haven't been that great this year or even last year. There was a lot of stress for him. But, he's going to have, you see how these guys' stock rise while they're sitting out. Cowher's stock, he's going to get hired and whatnot. So I don't think you necessarily diminish your reputation when you take a step back for a year or 2.